including those of you today who are joining us online. My name is Petrea Bradford, and it's great to be here at CEDA's State of the State event representing the APA Group. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land upon which we meet today, the First Nations people who have taken care of our lands and waterways for the past 60,000 years. And I recognise and thank all First Nations people and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I would also like to acknowledge our keynote speaker today, the Premier, the Honourable Jeremy Rockliff, and thank Melinda, the CEDA team, once again for bringing together an excellent group of senior stakeholders from government and industry. As many of you may be aware, APA is a leading Australian energy infrastructure business with a $27 billion portfolio of assets across Australia. Our portfolio includes renewables, such as wind and solar and batteries, electricity transmission interconnectors, gas pipelines, gas-fired power generators, which play a key role in firming renewable power and delivering energy security to businesses and communities. APA has a long history of owning, operating and maintaining some of Australia's most important energy infrastructure assets, and here in Tasmania, we are really proud to own and operate Basslink, a critical piece of infrastructure and a cornerstone of energy security in Tasmania. We are very proud of our role in delivering reliable power supply to consumers and businesses in both Tasmania and Victoria through the Basslink asset. It's like a two-way highway for electricity, and we think it's a win-win for both states. This means when the sun is shining on the mainland and there is excess solar power available, Basslink brings it to Tasmania. And when the sun isn't shining on the mainland, Basslink can supply energy from Tasmania's world-class deep storage capacity. This is particularly important during weather events and peak periods in winter and summer when energy demand can change and change very quickly. Our role at APA is to always be running and ready for when we're needed the most, so Tasmanian businesses and consumers get the energy they need when they need it. We take our role in the community very seriously, and we know just how critical it is to provide our customers with reliable and affordable energy. We have a strong track record when it comes to providing reliable, safe and a trusted operation for critical energy infrastructure, and Basslink is one of our key priorities here in Tasmania. Our ability to operate effectively and ultimately deliver on our collective ambition for a lower carbon future relies heavily on continued collaboration with our key stakeholders, including government. This is particularly so as we navigate the energy transition, which, as you know, needs to achieve three things: reliability, affordability, and lower emissions energy. Tasmania has some of the best renewable energy resources in the country, and the government has made it clear the opportunity that this presents for Tasmania in helping lead Australia through its energy transition. As our CEO, Adam Watson, said here last year, we support the government's legislative target to increase the state's renewable energy output by 200% by 2040, and commend them on the work they've already commenced on new renewable energy zones. To close, at APA we see great potential and opportunity in Tasmania, which is why we invested in Basslink. Our strategy is to be the partner of choice to deliver the infrastructure for the energy transition, and we're committed to working with the Tasmanian government and our communities to realise the 200% renewables ambition. But this will require the right policies and regulatory frameworks to promote the necessary investment and to achieve these ambitions. And we look forward to continuing to work closely with the re-elected Rockliff government as we work to deliver on their ambition for a resilient energy system and increased generation. With that, I would like to formally introduce the Premier, the Honourable Jeremy Rockliff, and invite him to the stage to speak more about his vision for the future of this great state.
Well, thank you very much, Patria, for that introduction. Thank you for sponsoring the event today, along with Westpac and Solstice. We very much appreciate that. To you, Melinda, thank you to you and your team at CEDA for once again providing this opportunity for all of us to be here today. Welcome everyone, assembled guests, some 280 or so, which is fantastic to see. Among the audience here today and my parliamentary colleagues, the Deputy Premier Michael Ferguson, Minister Felix Ellis, Minister Erica Betts and Member for Clark Simon Barakis. There may be others, so I apologise if I have missed you out. I want to also thank Cody very much for welcoming us to country and in doing so in a very meaningful way and with heart. And we're very conscious of the message that Cody said today. Well, a lot has happened since I had the pleasure of speaking with you 12 months or so ago. And what a year it has been. As you would all be aware, we've managed to fight with all our strength to secure an historic win, which has been the talk of Tasmania. It was a victory of the underdog, if you like, that demonstrated why you should never give up, why you should fight to the very end. And of course, I'm talking about the mighty Tassie Jack Jumpers and their superb NBL win, and I want to congratulate every single one of that team on such a great victory, and indeed it was a very proud moment for all of us in Tasmania. There was, of course, another contest during the year that you might have also noticed, that being a state election. And I'm pleased to say the election had the desired effect of clearing the decks. It delivered the government a fourth term and has allowed us to get on with delivering the things that are very important, of course, to Tasmanians and Tasmania's future. It has been gratifying, to be honest, to see the Parliament restored to 35 members and functioning well, better than I've seen for a long, long time. To be frank, the increase in the size of Parliament wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. The same goes for my decision to call an early election. I've copped some flack on both the decisions, but both were much needed moves to help set us up for the future. The first 4 weeks of the new parliamentary sitting have been more productive and constructive than I can remember. They are a real contrast to what was happening before I called the election, and I'm very keen to ensure that this collaboration, working together, continues. I strongly believe that we should recognise and respect the simple fact that the makeup of the new Parliament reflects the will of the Tasmanian people. It's disappointing, however, there have been attacks on those who are doing their very best to be effective representatives for their communities, who also back a stable and cooperative Parliament. It's absolutely vital we ensure the Parliament continues to serve the interests of all Tasmanians, setting aside the petty politics, the point scoring and the relentless negativity. This is all about building consensus rather than division. It's about being pragmatic and bringing people together. That's always been my approach. Working together, we are stronger and we are better placed to deal with the challenges that confront us, and indeed turning those challenges into opportunities. This is a new government with a new outlook and a new energy. Our focus is firmly on delivery, 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 with our eyes firmly fixed on the future. You will all know the phrase, demography is destiny, and there's some debate about who coined that phrase. But I've learnt after many years in public life, and indeed as a father of three, to be very careful in assigning credit or blame. But whoever it was right. Demography is destiny. It's a time machine into the future. It's a way to plan, a warning to be heeded, an exciting opportunity, and it's all of those things. I'm sure you would agree that two of Tasmania's greatest economic challenges are that we are an isolated island state and we have an ageing population. Like you, I cherish our natural state and I wouldn't change it for the world. But what we can do is foster a state that welcomes and grows one of our greatest assets, our young people. And today we are releasing, on that note, Tasmania's population policy. It follows on from our population growth strategy released in 2015. Back then, we did set a very bold and ambitious target to ensure we grew up Tasmania's population to 650,000 people by 2050. We did this because our economy was languishing. Population growth was wavering between stagnation and decline. But since then, we have focused on growing jobs and strengthening our economy, and we have succeeded. Our population has grown significantly. Our economy is in a much stronger position with employment at near record levels. But there's no doubt success has also brought about growing pains, and I acknowledge that. And this population strategy is aimed at continuing to address those challenges, particularly around attracting and retaining our young people. The actions in our strategy aim to improve the way we prepare for future population change. Since we launched that first population strategy, our economy has grown some 25%. Employment in Tasmania is more than 20% higher. But it is very important to note that Treasury has forecast that economic growth going forward will moderate, reflecting expected slowdown in the global economy. We know that Tasmania, and indeed the rest of the nation, is facing significant economic headwinds. And we know that more needs to be done when it comes to lifting our productivity and our participation rate. And that's why we've developed our strong plan for Tasmania's future. It's a plan that focuses on the things that are important for Tasmania's future. A plan that puts the economy and jobs at the centre of everything we do. A plan that has tangible outcomes, making sure Tasmania is well positioned for the future has always been a top priority for me. In the last 10 years, the state has made excellent progress. We have delivered historically low unemployment and close to 50,000 jobs have been created over that time. But we know there is more to do, and it's vital we continue that progress. Tasmania emerged from the pandemic, as you would all know, stronger and faster than the rest of Australia. We got ahead of the curve, and this is something that we should all be very proud of. But we now need to capitalise on those gains and continue to attract investment and jobs to this state. Importantly, while federal monetary policy has been designed to constrain spending and dampen economic conditions, Tasmanians have remained employed. In the last quarter, state final demand was in line with the national average. National surveys of business conditions and business confidence have bounced back since after the election. Our business conditions, which reflect our policy settings, are nation-leading. But I do know we need to do even more to promote investment and job creation and reduce red tape. Having a strong economy means more Tasmanians are employed. Having a strong economy allows us to invest more in the things that Tasmanians care about: health, education, housing and community infrastructure. We recognise the need to achieve a more balanced demographic profile so the outlook for Tasmania remains positive. So now is an important time to keep the momentum going and put in place a strong plan for Tasmania's future. Our next phase of population planning is all about targeting the demographic shifts we need to continue to prosper. Since the release of the 2015 population strategy, we've seen a net increase in 25 to 34-year-olds, with more young people and families choosing to make Tasmania their home. But here is a figure I want you to think about. The median age of Tasmania's population is 42. By contrast, when I turned the ripe old age of 1 in 1971, the median age was just 26. We have the oldest median age in the nation. Our median age of 42 compares to the median age of all Australians of 38 years. This has a significant impact on demand for our services and a significant impact on our productivity. And there is no doubt that we must strengthen our focus on increasing the retention and attraction of younger residents. And we must do so while still supporting the wellbeing of all Tasmanians of all ages and stages of life. Our population policy aligns with our 2030 Strong Plan for Tasmania's future. It is in lockstep with our plan to continue to make Tasmania the best place to live, to work and to raise a family. A number of the initiatives that support this goal are among the 78 election commitments we are delivering in our first 100 days of our new government. Delivering those commitments is the result of a massive effort, indeed, and a lot of pressure on our state service. And I take this opportunity to acknowledge those efforts, and I thank them for their outstanding work. Those commitments are helping ensure Tasmania does attract and retain more younger people. They go to ensuring we have the strong economy needed for good jobs. They go to ensuring we have the health system young families can rely on. They go to ensuring that our communities are safe and are fair, and our world-class natural assets are indeed, quite rightly, protected. They go to ensuring we have the housing young people and families need. They include building the workforce of the future by skilling up more Tasmanians. And I know firsthand the pressure on young people to leave our state even if they don't want to. To attract and retain more younger people, our population policy will deliver initiatives in 3 key policy priorities. 1, liveability. 2, sustainability. And 3, people and skills. Under the policy umbrella of liveability, we will focus on building the family-friendly cities and towns growing families need, including the timely delivery of infrastructure and services and developing smart, sustainable cities and towns. As part of this plan, we'll invest some $35 million in the Homes Faster partnership incentive to stimulate housing supply. We will deliver a new $10 million density incentive grant scheme for infill development. We will support our regional areas with worker housing and our Key Homes program. And we will support financing costs through no-interest loans for headworks charges to stimulate that investment and development of the housing that we need. Our plan to build family-friendly cities and towns will also see us invest $5 million to fund scholarships and incentives for staff in the early years workforce. We will do a stocktake of all Tasmanian government land and release surplus land for new early childhood and education care services. $10 million to establish our new out-of-school hours care in areas of need and build new supersized child and family learning centres in Huonville, Smithton, Longford and Scottsdale. We are also offering relocation allowances for nurses and midwives to move to Tasmania. And we've put Tasmania ahead of other states with a new generous GP incentive package to attract new GPs to Tasmania to work, to live in Tasmania's rural and regional areas as well as outer urban areas. Under our policy umbrella of developing the people and the skills we need, we will invest heavily into workforce initiatives to ensure we grow the state's skill base. I know on the forefront of many of your minds. $4 million for a state-of-the-art industry training facility in Burnie with a dedicated focus on renewable energy skills. $6 million to boost the highly successful High-Vis Army, and we'll provide the Housing Industry Association with $800,000 to expand Youth Build to all secondary schools. We are creating the next generation of young tradies by delivering more vocational training in our schools. And we'll set up Tasmania's first purpose-built earthworks training site to skill up the next generation of civil construction workers. But it's not just about bricks and mortar. It's about building creative, cohesive and diverse communities. And that's why we're supporting young Tasmanians with a $1 million Youth Arts Grant Funding Program to provide an outlet for engagement, creativity and arts career activation. Of course, our government also recognises the important role the multicultural community has played and continues to play in Tasmania. And we are investing further in multicultural programs and initiatives to foster a sense of belonging and acceptance. It is through this social cohesion that we can develop long and bright futures for young Tasmanians of all backgrounds. Linked to our goal of sustainability, our population policy also features the establishment of a new data portal. This new population dashboard will be free and easy to use source of information to assist in future planning. It will provide our local councils, our communities, our planners with the demographic data they need to support informed decision making. Without proper data, it's impossible to properly plan for the future. And our plan for Tasmania's future has a key focus on planning mechanisms, including mandating plan build, a fast, efficient process that's all about making it easier to get planning and building approvals to ensure construction starts faster. And later this year, we will also be delivering legislation for development assessment panels, which will give us a way to take the politics out of planning once and for all. And we now have more than 20 councils signed up to the statewide planning scheme, and we are continuing to make progress for the final councils needed to provide a truly statewide system. Through these reforms and others, we are striving for a higher level of productivity. These are all important measures to ensure that we are attracting and retaining young people while creating an environment where they can grow and flourish. The strategy recognises that the availability, of course, of affordable and diverse housing close to amenities and services is vital to achieving livability. Continued urban sprawl is not sustainable in the long term and puts pressure on infrastructure, public transport and those vital services. Smart and sustainable medium density and infill housing along key transit corridors supports greater livability. However, for example, Hobart has the lowest rate of apartment offerings out of any Australian capital, with units representing just 15% of all housing options, which is why we will scale up the delivery of these housing types. Activities under the strategy to achieve this will include working closely with local councils and developers to show it's possible to deliver diverse housing options and solutions close to a range of transport options, family-friendly places, services and jobs. Our commitment of $10 million for infill housing under the Density Incentive Grant Scheme will provide critical funds to progress this important work. I've often said, and I firmly believe, one of the single most powerful drivers for improving economic and social outcomes in Tasmania, including health, happiness and productivity, is education. It is hugely significant for our state's future that we have delivered crucial change in the education system over the past 10 years. We've extended our high schools to years 11 and 12 and changed the law to ensure young people are in education and training. There is no doubt this is paying off, with over 80% of 15 to 19-year-olds in formal educational training, which is in line with the national average. And I want to make it very clear, our aim is to keep young people in either formal education or training to drive participation and productivity. Both of those streams are vital. We're also giving children the best possible start in life and learning by improving access to early education, regardless of where you live or your family circumstances. Yesterday, in Launceston, we launched Little Tasmanian Book 2. This is a project that reaches every household in the state who have welcomed a new baby, to encourage little Tasmanians to grow up with pride and confidence, to build a healthy culture of reading and aspiration from day one. On the back of those Little Tasmanians books is the line, "Someone just like you did it, and you can do it too." This is a project about encouraging families to read to their children from day one. But this culture of encouragement is also the engine behind Tasmanian successes. Of course, some Tasmanians are inspired when someone tells them they cannot do it. When people told Diane Edgerton from the Northwest Coast that she couldn't build a globally significant artisan manufacturing business from her shed in Burnie, every single day she thought about proving them wrong. And today, Direct Edge, Diane's business, is a national leader in sophisticated sheet metal manufacturing. There is Sea Forest, decarbonising the meat industry by feeding Tasmanian seaweed to cattle, an idea some people call crazy. There's Procreate, the #1 paid app on iPad, building their business here in Tasmania after everyone in the tech industry told them they would have to leave to succeed. And there are hundreds of these stories right across our wonderful state of Tasmania, in a state, incidentally, where 97% of our enterprises are small. We're not boastful people, but we must start telling each other here in Tasmania that we can do it. We can lead the world. Brand Tasmania, in fact, the research shows that young Australians already think we are entrepreneurial, our state, where people with good ideas can build something special. We must keep making that true. We need to provide an environment which our young people know that if they can finish school or gain a trade qualification, if they work hard and if they follow their natural talents and their passions, they can change Tasmania. Indeed, they can change the world from here in Tasmania. Our population strategy and our plan for Tasmania's future provide a living and working environment in which all Tasmanians can grow, create and contribute to our community. Our government is focused on breaking down, of course, that entrenched social disadvantage across areas of Tasmania. And by implementing the initiatives we have talked about today and more, we can do just that. We can increase the participation rate. We can lift productivity. We want young people to change this place with their passion, their ideas and their energy. We want young people from interstate and indeed from right across the world who are Tasmanian, even if they don't know it yet, to come here and help us change this place for the better to make it even more Tasmania. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Premier.
Thank you, Luci.
Thank you for that comprehensive vision for Tasmania. For those of you in the audience who don't know me yet, I'm Luci Ellis, Chief Economist at Westpac, and on behalf of Westpac Premier, it is a privilege to be the state's banking partner. It's a relationship that's now spanned more than 25 years, and we're pleased that it will be extending for a new contract extension of 3 years. Westpac's got over 120,000 customers in Tasmania. We bank about 20% of the state, and we do take a lot of pride and are very mindful of the responsibility that we have as the banking partner for so many people and the role of banking in supporting economies to grow and reach their potential.
Thank you.
You've outlined a number of priorities today, including population, planning, and the education and skills that are needed to maintain economic growth. But of course, these can't be addressed by government alone. You talked about how important it was that the Parliament was working well together, but we'll all need to work together. We have large and small businesses in the room, members of the public service, members of the community, non-government sector, and we all have a role to play if we're to be successful together in realising that better future. So, Premier, on behalf of Westpac, we look forward to supporting your vision for continuing growth, and we do look forward to many years of supporting that effort to maintain ongoing prosperity of this state. Now, it is, of course, a tradition in the State of the State that the audience gets their chance to throw their own curly questions at the Premier, and we'll move to that now. We actually already have quite a number of questions on the board. I actually probably don't need to ask any of my own. There are quite a few here. And there are 49 votes. So one thing, even if you don't want to ask a question, I do encourage you to log on to the Pigeonhole site. It's the middle QR code on the card on your tables. There are 3 QR codes and it's the middle one. Because even if you don't have a question, it's great to see some votes for which of the questions that people would like to see, because I'm not going to be able to get to all, well, there's 11 here already. But if you think you've got a really killer question, by all means pose it, and let's see if the rest of the audience agree. I will start with the first one though, which has, in fact, its vote tally is still rising, which is, what tangible efforts will be made to address productivity and efficiency of the public service?
Well, thank you for the question, and you would have noticed that I've acknowledged the public service for the great work they've done coming through the pandemic, other challenges, and indeed implementing our policies. So I'm very much, have a good working relationship with our hard-working public service. But again, we had a review of the public service a few years ago, Luci, the Watt review, which put in forward a number of recommendations to ensure the efficiency of the public service and indeed the productivity as well. We're working through a number of those recommendations now. We have refreshed leadership and new eyes in a number of our key departments, including our state growth, including Department of Premier and Cabinet, and indeed Treasury, and I want to be very complimentary of the predecessors of the new people that they're in there, but fresh eyes are good. And so we'll continue to work our way through the Watt review in terms of the public service productivity and those recommendations, and indeed those fresh eyes are already had and produced very good results. The other thing I want to mention as well is that not only should our public service be accountable very closely, of course, and completely accountable to the Tasmanian people, but also ministers as well. And I've released publicly a series of letters that I've written, correspondence to each minister, and outline my key expectations following the election in terms of delivering on what we committed to at the last election, and given very clear direction in terms of my expectations as Premier on behalf of the Tasmanian people that our ministers drive that reform and indeed what we committed to. We've also engaged one-on-one with all our Secretary of all departments and outlined our series of expectations as well in terms of delivery, and also our state-owned companies and government business enterprise, where we're redoing, if you like, or rewriting those ministerial charters to also give very clear direction to our government business enterprises and state-owned companies in terms of our expectations on behalf of the Tasmanian people as well. And all the people I've mentioned have worked very assiduously and very solidly over the course of the last number of years, putting in plans over the course of the last decade, good actions. Renewable energy is one of those we're working through at the moment with Marinus Link and the renewable energy capacity. But that expectation setting is very important. It provides good accountability dialogue between government and ministers, GBEs and departments as well. And that's a good way to reset, if you like, into a fourth term of government. And as I've said a number of times in public forums, while we came into government in 2014 and things changed, I would argue changed for the better, particularly our economic circumstances, I very much see the 2024 election as in a similar vein. Yes, this is a new government, new ideas and a new way forward, and, if you like, re-energised as well.
Thanks very much for that. Also rocketing up the charts of the votes is perhaps another suggestion on how to improve the productivity of the public sector. And the person who posed this said, I appreciate that this is a tough topic politically. However, one of the things they advocate is amalgamation of local councils in order to improve the productivity and effectiveness of that layer of government. And I was wondering if you had any reflections on that idea.
I have. And we haven't really had a lot of local government reform since 1993, when our councils went from, it might have been 45 to 29 from memory. And it's been tried a couple of times before and hasn't progressed as well as many people, particularly the person asking the question, would have liked. So we've had our local government review, and we've taken compulsory enforced amalgamations off the table, but we'd rather have the carrot approach and encouraging those discussions, and they are. There's some councils around Tasmania, and my view is that when you see a sensible amalgamation of councils that reflect community will, that you'll see a number of those discussions, and we will encourage and support that process. What I am concerned about, though, is the sustainability of local government, and I am concerned about the, what I would, we've got our inflation data out a week or so ago at 4%. It's come down from the high 8s to 4. More to go to get to that 2 to 3% range. But we're seeing rate rises of some 12 to 15%. And in a cost of living crisis, which we're in, and I make no bones about that, and we're trying to support Tasmanians through that in various ways, those types of rate increases I believe unsustainable for local rate payers. And so that is a really strong message for local councils to improve their efficiency of delivery. And we're happy to play a role in that. But those sort of rate rise increases just highlights the complexity and the cost of delivering services to local people. And if nothing else, that should encourage a discussion in the community about more efficient ways of delivering services through local government.
Thanks very much. One of the topics you touched on in your presentation was population and determination to expand population and to attract both migrants from the mainland but also from elsewhere in the world. And one of the questions we've got here, which has received a large number of votes now, is that many migrants come to Tasmania because they qualify for citizenship faster here than if they were to go to Sydney or Melbourne. But then once they've done that, they move to the mainland. And so the question is, how do you sort of arrest that, or do we even need to? And thinking about, you talked about nurses and GPs, and again, that may well be from the mainland or from the rest of the world. But what are your immigration priorities, and how do we arrest this particular issue?
There's a few things there, Lucy. The first is working closely with the federal government to ensure their capacity to do the paperwork, if I can put it that way, to get people here in a far less red tape-ish way. Some of those challenges have been alleviated a bit in the last 12 months through urgings of state governments of all colours, which is good to see. The other matter is to be very proactive. And, I note the proactivity of the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Tasmania and UTAS in terms of what they're doing in attracting a skilled workforce. India was the example that was given to me today. And so anything that we as a state government could do in partnership to support the university, to support business migration. But the reality is we need more younger people not only to grow up here and stay here, but more people coming to our shores. And we should welcome people with open arms. Renewable energy has been mentioned a few times today, and you point to a success story in Tasmania, and it's the migrant success story of building our hydro schemes, which has delivered us now 100% renewable energy capacity. And of course, by 2040, if we reach our target, and which I'm sure we will, to double that capacity, indeed to 200% in that time frame. That's one example of the migrant success story. And so attracting is important, and being very proactive in that, but also when they arrive on our shores to ensure that we have the support network and the services in place to ensure a welcoming environment, easy access to services, and a navigation system, if you like, that supports our migrants to live comfortably in a cohesive manner. And so those things are happening, and we're building on, and I mentioned that in my contribution today. So, and our departments, the health department, had very aggressive campaigns in the UK for mental health professionals and other skilled people in the health profession as well, which has had some good success, I have to say. And so it's really being very aggressive in that approach and proactive across the whole of government.
That's great to hear. I mean, among the other questions that did come up here were, for example, concerns around particular recognition of migrant skills. So I think we can, that is part of the story. I think we can say that one's answered. But there is a question about how we ensure that those trade and investment opportunities do actually sort of rise, increase to sit alongside the population growth and sustain that population growth. There's a number of questions here talking about, but young people leave, how can we stop that? These are all related. But what I will do is sort of pose one point, which is the local education system. So now the current top-rated question of the ones that are yet to be asked is, this question of public education. In your presentation, you mentioned that you've done a lot around merging high schools and the senior colleges together, so you didn't have that kind of break point that encouraged school leaving. There's a number of other things with vocational education, including for construction work, which obviously you can't. If people come here, they need somewhere to live. But this question points out that historically, the Tasmanian education system has had the worst retention rates and has been relatively high cost in that delivery. And so I think there seems to be a lot of interest in hearing you expand on your plans and how you will address the education review.
Yes, and it's all about continuous improvement. And we have come a long way. And I mentioned that retention figure when you include formal education and training around that 80, I think it's 80.2%. The national average is around 81. And so we are matching it with the rest of the nation in terms of that retention. I said it was very important that we have a formal education stream, vocational education stream, and all are very important for obvious reasons. And we've changed the law in Tasmania. So you could not leave Year 12 until you turned 18. You had to be engaged in at least a Cert 3 in vocational education and training or have a full-time job. And so we've made some good calls there. We also need to, and we have ensured that we have structured literacy as well. And it's been some battle, I have to say, around phonetical awareness and phonics instruction, and we're changing that back and become far more focused in terms of engaging our kids earlier in that structured literacy approach, which I know by all the evidence will certainly help, and that took some time to get there. What I am concerned about, and it's particularly evident since the pandemic and where we do need to improve, is our engagement in education, and our school attendance rates have dropped off dramatically since the pandemic for various reasons. And that's a national problem, but also a problem right here in Tasmania. So any review, which we're embarking on now, on the basis of continuous improvement, I want to see a particular focus there. I want to see a particular focus on the level and support of students of disadvantage. And, we've tried very hard in Tasmania to build our economy, create jobs, productivity, but we have the highest rate of disadvantage in Australia, including the Northern Territory. Now, education will fix that. And we need to first acknowledge that education is the silver bullet to addressing that. But it is a barrier. And so our focus and our resources need to be in those areas where we're supporting our students, irrespective of circumstance or background, to have the best education. And indeed, those areas of disadvantage around Tasmania. And breaking down the barriers of education as well. I was education minister for 7 years. And so it's probably my fault. But I did have a particular focus on building a system of equity in education where, irrespective of circumstance or background, every child had that fundamental right to access a quality education, but also investing in the areas of reducing the barriers to education. And all the evidence and the pedagogy points to the fact that our young people, if they're comfortable and happy at school, they will thrive in a learning environment. And that's why we chose very deliberately in the last education agreement, we're going through another one now, to apply those extra resources in reducing the barriers to our young people with trauma, which is a huge barrier to education, but also supporting our students with disability, where we had a very crude model of supporting our students with disability based on IQ, where now the system should work this way, and we're improving that now based on continuous improvement, with supporting each individual student's needs and resourcing individual students to their needs and their requirements to be able to learn and to thrive.
Thanks. Final question, and I am sorry we've not been able to get to all of the questions that we had today. There have been a lot, and so perhaps there may be some other vehicle to provide those. But I'm going to bundle two together. On renewable energy, do you envisage more investment in renewable energy as a key strategy to drive that growth and jobs that the states need? And when will the whole of state business case for energy projects be released?
Thank you. The answer to the first part of your question is yes, it is a key strategy of ours, and based on what I've spoken about in terms of our history, and we talk about hydro-industrialisation, I see Marinus Link and that investment and project to be in a similar vein, where over the course of the next decade we'll see renewable energy transformed in Tasmania. That link will deliver investment and jobs coming to Tasmania, investors coming to Tasmania in terms of the development of wind, solar, hydrogen, and a lot of discussion with investors going on at this present time. To the timeline, the final investment decision is expected within the next 12 months in terms of working through that Marinus project and process. There's a lot to do, a lot of I's to dot, T's to cross, a lot of engagement with the community, and I'm speaking to Sandra from Marinus Link today and acknowledge her efforts and that of Tas Networks and others as well in progressing that. But that is a huge opportunity for us. Our future will always be in that renewable energy, and when we get the second cable in terms of Marinus Link, which will deliver at Lake Sathana the capacity, of course, to ensure that the pump storage investments and that capacity will also be a key investment as well for us. And Patria spoke a bit about how that might work in terms of the Basilic example when she introduced me today. So that's the timeline for that. We've, in my view, secured a very good deal and working arrangement with the federal government. Tasmania can play its part in terms of supporting renewable energy development in mainland, which we should benefit from. But the key thing is, like the hydro, it's about increasing that capacity and attracting investment and jobs right here in Tasmania.
Well, with that, I want to thank you very much for your time and openness to the questions from the floor. Thank you very much, and on behalf of Westpac, thank you again for your partnership over the last quarter of a century, and here's to many more.
My pleasure. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you very much. Thank you.
There's a photo op. Yeah, we have to stay here for the photo op.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at CEDA, Tasmania's State of the State. I'd like to thank CEDA for organising this event and Premier Rockliff for his enlightening speech on current economic conditions, as well as his insights on population and planning policy and how these impact our economic productivity. As a major sponsor, I'm excited to introduce you all to Solstice. For those of you who may not know, we recently changed from TasGas to Solstice Energy. This rebrand signifies our broader vision of becoming a diversified energy company, reflecting our commitment to innovation and sustainability. It is also intended to signify our commitment to Tasmania and to all of our existing loyal customers here in the state. Our CEO, Phaedra Eckert, would normally be here, but she's currently at the Global Energy Transition Congress, exploring new initiatives and technologies for those hard-to-abate sectors, of which we have a few here in Tasmania. We at Solstice are able to bring global experience to Tasmania and use the learnings from other places to improve our local industries. Listening to Premier Rockliff, I was struck by the parallels between his government's approach to planning for the future and our journey at Solstice. The Premier emphasised the importance of a proactive approach to population growth, economic participation and productivity. At Solstice, we support these priorities and recognise how important they are to our state and to our customers. The energy sector, and subsequently its energy users, face significant challenges. Market volatility, increased government interventions, a slow transition to net zero, economic uncertainties, and shifting consumer behaviours and sentiments. These challenges, however, bring unique opportunities for growth and innovation. At Solstice, we are navigating these headwinds with a clear vision and a robust strategy. Our evolution from Tasgas to Solstice Energy is more than a rebrand. It's a business transformation. For over 20 years, we have been pivotal in Tasmania's energy security, serving as the leading natural gas distributor and retailer. Natural gas remains crucial for Tasmania, supporting approximately $1 billion in economic output and over 8,500 jobs, direct and indirect. It is supplied to 14,000 homes, 1,000 small to medium businesses, and around 70 industrial customers. You may not realise, you have likely already today used products that rely on gas. Natural gas is essential to many industries in Tasmania, including hotels and restaurants, commercial laundries, aluminium smelters, fertiliser producers, brickmakers, and probably most importantly to the audience, coffee roasters, whisky distilleries, and beer brewers. Our planning to the future has led us to expand beyond natural gas and include electricity for residential and small business customers. This move leverages our extensive local market knowledge and strengthens our service offerings. By focusing on our productivity and managing our overheads and minimising our costs, we will return those savings back to our customers. This year, while our competitors have raised prices, we are able to offer lower prices, offering a better deal for Tasmanians. This is the competition we promised we'd bring to the local market and proves our claims that we do things a bit different and are delivering what Tassie deserves. At Solstice, we're not trying to change the world, but we promise to make your home energy experience more human, more affordable, more enjoyable, and a little bit better. Solstice's vision for Tasmania's energy future also extends to developing renewable solutions, such as biofuels and renewable gases like hydrogen and biomethane. We aim to be a leader in the transition towards a more sustainable energy landscape. Our commitment to providing reliable, sustainable energy solution aligns with Tasmania's goals for a sustainable net zero future. Our deep roots in the community and our active support for local initiatives and charities highlight our dedication to Tasmania's economic and social fabric. By engaging with our customers and understanding their needs, we ensure to provide reliable and affordable energy solutions. Our CEDA membership is also a part of this, and we greatly value the opportunities it provides for collaboration and dialogue on key economic issues. Supporting events like this aligns with our commitment to fostering economic development and sustainability in Tasmania. CEDA's platform allows us to connect with industry leaders, share insights and contribute to shaping Tasmania's economic future. Thank you all for your time today. Please join me in welcoming Melinda back to the stage.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Premier. It's always great to hear you articulate so clearly your vision for Tasmania and the challenges and opportunities before the state. To Luci and Westpac, thank you again for your sponsorship. So to Patria and the APA group, likewise, and Sarah, thank you for your comments. And I will actually also acknowledge Phaedra, who has been a real contributor to our work, including through our State Advisory Council. My notes say that I'm supposed to have some key takeaways. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say this, though. My number one key takeaway is, what an amazing audience. I have never seen so many votes on questions before, so give yourself a little clap for that. The most engaged State of the State yet. You've set the benchmark for next year when we come back, so know that, and I'll be revving up the interstate competition as well. But in all seriousness, there is also one key takeaway from me. CEDA is about trying to drive collective change with and through our members. We've got a lot more work to do that there. Our members are encouraging us to be braver, and under the banner of Progress 2050, we're going to be looking to drive a generational reform agenda. So please keep a watch out for that. Here in Tasmania coming up, we've got the Tasmania infrastructure discussion with Minister Ferguson, who's with us, as I said earlier, in the room today. That's on Wednesday the 28th of August. And if you're looking for big picture engagement, we've got a really important AI leadership summit coming up in October in Melbourne. As always, jump onto our website, ceda.com.au, and you can find out all about those events, but also please take a look at some of the research that we've been doing that really intersects with so many of the issues that we've been talking about today. Thank you again for being here. I look forward to seeing you at an event here or on the mainland sometime soon. Thank you, and thank you again, Premier.